Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast with J. Gordon Duncan. And if you're wondering why the J, the answer is, I'm not a bagpipe player. And if that joke doesn't make any sense, I encourage you to check out episode 0, where I explain that joke, as well as the purpose of the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast, where we talk about faith, family, fitness, finances, and sometimes fun. Hey friends, thank you so much for coming back. You know what? I am just getting spoiled with Shane Dale's producing. She's fantastic. She hears me in the back, and I'm thankful for the incredible sound quality and the video quality. Thank you, everyone. I got people listening who haven't listened before, and obviously got people watching. I'm excited about the growth of the YouTube channel. Some folks want to watch this for some reason, so you guys are going to make me make sure I keep my hair straight. But guys, thanks so much. It's been exciting. We've had some guests on. I've got a couple of more guests in the queue, and I'm still chasing. I know you get tired of talking about that. I've been talking about this for 2 to 3 months. There's that one rock star, and I'm talking to his publicist, and we had the interview scheduled, and then it didn't work out, and now we're trying again. So, you know me, I'm just chasing them. But I will tell you this rock star, I've never told you who it is a Grammy award-winning rock star. And we'll see. I'm still chase it. So hopefully it's going to happen. And I also have coming up an interview that I haven't recorded yet, but I know this one's going to happen yet. But a friend of mine who has a film coming out on Amazon that he produced and wrote and acted in, and that one's coming up as well. So a lot of fun stuff happening on the This Is Gonna Hurt podcast. But today I'm going to do a brief 2-part episode. So this is part 1, and coming up is part 2. And so these are going to be solo rounds, but a lot of people have been talking to me about coaching lately, coaching and masterminds and mentoring. At the John Maxwell Leadership Series seminar that we did, my talk specifically was, if you want to be able to make the shifts and the pivots you need to make in life, it's necessary to get a coach or a mentor. And I talked about the difference. A coach is someone you pay to walk you through a specific strategy and teaching. Think about like a football, basketball coach. A mentor is an intimate relationship. It's a little bit different. Typically, you don't pay your mentor. Typically, it's more of an intimate relationship, and it's got to be someone that you have a connection with. And I told the stories about my mentors and my coaches, but coaching's come up a lot. And listen, I'm going to say this. Now, I think I've shared with you guys before, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach. If you wonder who John Maxwell is, he's been a business coach for almost 50 years, ton of New York Times bestsellers. His first big one was, I think, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. The guy's amazing. He puts out 1 or 2 books a year. He keeps going, keeps speaking. I went through his coaching program, and I'll probably share this in both episodes. But I started out in 2003. You guys have heard me talk about working with eye doctors, and I started out as an eye care consultant. And that consulting turned into HR consulting and eventually marketing, kind of blossomed into me owning Capitalized Marketing and Consulting. Well, along the way, I've been working with companies, but we thought, you know what? Folks need to know if you know what you're doing or how you can do it. So we went out and got the John Maxwell certification. And we thought we need that underpinning. We need to tell people, yes, we have been trained to be a coach and we know what we're doing. And at times we have curriculum we can use. And that's why we went the John Maxwell route. So people have been talking to me about coaching lately. And around town, in every town, and online, there are a million coaches. If we were as good at what we did as there were coaches, no one would need coaches. If that makes sense. They're everywhere. And so how do you choose to pay for a coach or get a coach or join a mastermind or not join a mastermind? It's a wonderful question because we're in this age of information. You can learn a lot and you can get a lot of help to learn it. How do you decide? So here's the 2-part series. I want to talk about coaching, and the first one is going to be, how do you choose a coach? That's today's episode. How do you choose a coach? The next one is going to be how to choose to be a coach. Get it? So on this first episode, we're like, well, I might want to get a coach. How do I decide to do it? And the second one is you're thinking, maybe I want to be a coach, and I'm going to give some guidelines. I've been in both. And by the way, I'm a coach and I have a coach. Coaches need coaches. It's the way it works. Everyone needs a coach. So coaches need coaches. So I've been on every single angle of this thing. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 ways to choose a coach. I'm going to tell some stories along the way. And then next episode is, okay, you're thinking about being a coach. Here's some guidelines if you're thinking about doing it. Okay, because I will tell you this. Having a bad coach, you feel like you've wasted your money. You feel like you've been taken advantage of. It just leads to greater frustration. Getting a bad coach won't work. And I'm going to tell you, I've coached well and I've coached poorly. That's why I went out and got some certification and some training underneath it. Because if I had the skill and experience, I wanted to share it. I wanted to make sure I did it well and people could feel like their money was spent well. So I've got my 3 points on to be a coach. Okay, or how to choose a coach. You ready? So how do you choose a coach? Number 1, here's my question. When you look at a person that you're considering to be your coach, do you admire them or something about them? Okay? So you're out there looking for a coach. You've Googled social media coaches, or you've Googled, a marathon training coach or fitness coach or losing weight coach or whatever the case may be. Whatever the profession you're in or an area you want to grow in. And you find someone, you got to ask yourself, do I admire them, or at least do I admire something about them? Here's why I did the difference, okay? Because it's not the same thing. You may choose for someone to be your coach, but you don't necessarily admire them, right? They might have something that's very different that you're like, well, I'm not trying to be you. But you might find something about them, but they know this one thing really well. You've got to have a respect and an admiration for either the person who's going to be your coach or something about them. You've either got to feel like, hey, I just love this person, I admire him so much, or this person is so knowledgeable about what they're doing. It's got to be one or the other. Great if it's both. Like, for example, I know a ton of people who sign on for Grant Cardone University. Listen, I've done it. Grant Cardone is the country's leading sales expert, and he has a whole university, and you sign up, and you're part of it, and there are all these classes and modules. Well, listen, the guy knows what he's talking about, but he's kind of hard to take sometimes. I mean, he just is full force all the time. Sometimes he makes some jokes you don't really like. But he's really good at this thing. And you have to say, well, it's like taking a college course almost. I'm not looking to necessarily emulate you, but I need to know this thing, right? So I've done that, right? I'm not necessarily looking to be Grant Cardone, but his content for that period of time I was in Cardone U was phenomenal. I was thankful I did it. But coaching-wise, when I was planting a church in North Carolina, I had a coach, and I paid for him to be my coach. And I admired the guy. I was like, you not only know what you're doing, but I admire you as a person. It was like the whole package. And so you've got to think through that before you get a coach. And I'm going to include masterminds in that. For anybody who's wondering, a mastermind is sort of like group coaching, where you're all putting in input and learning from each other. But typically there's one leader, one moderator, one coach. And so if you're going to join that, you got to ask yourself, do I admire this person who's leading this? Or do I at least admire something about them enough that that's important to me? And if you can't say yes to one of them, don't go with that person as your coach. Don't waste your time or your money. Don't do it. You've got to say, I admire you, or I admire this skill set of you enough that I'm willing to let you be my coach. I'm willing to be your student or your athlete or whatever the case may be, right? Super important, folks. Everybody's out there. And listen, that puts the responsibility of the coach to know what they're doing well and to make sure that their character is something that people are at least willing to follow. Okay, so how do you choose a coach? Number 1, you got to ask yourself, do I admire them, or do I admire something about them? That's hopefully that thing that you're trying to learn from them. Okay, super, super important. Number 2, next question to ask yourself is, this one is probably the most important one. I should have made it number 3, right? But here it is. Do they have a proven record of success? Does this coach have a proven record of success? Either they've done the thing that you're learning from them incredibly well, or they have a track record of coaching someone. Like, I'll give you an example. Michael Jordan's coach, all of a sudden, I'm talking about his personal coach, not Phil Jackson. Man, I read his book. His book's called Relentless. It'll come to me in a minute. But yeah, I read his book. I heard him speak in Vegas. He's not a basketball player. Like, he doesn't have a record of winning championship after championship. But he had a record of transforming athletes. And Michael Jordan will credit like his transformation of his physical strength and his endurance. Like when he went from sort of the skinny kid who came into the NBA to being powerful and being able to endure and take the beating. If you watch the Jordan Rules documentary, there's a whole episode on that about how he just got beaten up, especially when he was playing the Detroit Pistons. And he's like, forget this. I've got to add on muscle. And so that's when he went out and got a coach. And so one or the other, that coach had a track record of coaching of success. Or if you look at some of the coaches in the NBA right now, they won championships. Phil Jackson, who coached the Lakers and the Bulls and the Knicks, he had a track record of being a good basketball player and a really good coach at the same time. So listen, if someone says, hey, I'd like to be a coach, your coach, or I have a program, you've got to ask yourself, do you have a track record of success? And so for me, when I started out as a consultant in 2003, I was an eye care consultant. So what was my track record of success at that point in time? I was young. I was 33 years old. So there were two things I could say. I had managed a 14,000 patient eye clinic. And I could show people, this is what we did. This is the success we had. These are the things I put in place. And prospective eye doctors could go, oh, I can see you did it. And then, you know what I did? When I got started, my first gig, I did for free. I went to an eye doctor's office and I said, let me consult you absolutely for free. And if you like what I've done, will you be a reference for me? He said, sure. So when I went out to start my eye care consulting business, I could say I have a track record of practices improving, and this eye doctor can tell you that I'm a good consultant. I had to have a track record. And so that's the way it is. You build it and you build it and you build it. And so coaches should be working from that. They should be working from the fact that they have a track record of success of doing what they're coaching you, or a track record of actually coaching people. If they don't have a track record, don't pay them to be your coach. What are you going to get? We don't want shared exploration. That's not coaching. Shared exploration is great, but that's not coaching. We don't want shared ignorance. I don't mean that ugly to use that word, but we don't want people sharing ideas that they don't know if they're actually working. No, we won't be able to say this is what it looks like, right? So if you're going to choose someone, do they have a track record of success in doing it, or do they have a track record of success of coaching it? Ideally, both, but it doesn't necessarily have to be both of them. It doesn't. Tim Grover, he wrote the book Relentless. That was Michael Jordan's coach. Forgive me, I had to go back to that. Tim Grover's phenomenal. Coached tons of athletes. Wasn't a basketball player necessarily, but he knew how to train athletes. So, two questions. Number one, you have, first of all, do you admire the person or something about them? Number two, do they have a track record of success in that area that you want to learn from them, or a track record of success in coaching people? And then finally, here is last thing you've got to ask yourself. So you're thinking about getting a coach. You're thinking about working with someone. Do you have the commitment to do the work? Do you? You got to ask someone. So I was talking to someone about a mastermind I was leading, and it was 9 months long, and we met twice a month, and there was going to be homework, right? And walked it through it. And I'm like, this is what it looks like. And this is the expectation and requirement if you're part of the group. Can you do it? No one should sign up for that program unless they have got the commitment to do it. They either have the time or they're going to make the time. Don't sign up for a coaching program unless you're going to do it. It's the biggest way to waste money. When I go to business conferences or 10X GrowthCon or that kind of thing, everyone there's selling a program, but don't sign up for it unless you're going to do it. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your coach's time. Will you do what they're offering? Now, that's simple, guys. That's it. Do you need a coach? I think almost everybody needs a coach. I really do. Because we're either getting better or we're getting worse. It's just the laws of atrophy, right? Either getting better or getting worse, right? And if you have competition, either you're getting better or your competition, getting better. One or the other. That's the reality of the way it is. And for me, I want to constantly get better. Why not? What's my other choice? What's my other option? I want to grow as a person. I want to grow in what I know. I want to grow in my skills. That's the idea of growth. Growth isn't just singular, meaning it's just this one part of our life. We're either choosing to grow or we're going backwards. So coaching is fantastic. But if you're going to get a coach, it's three things. One, do you admire them or admire something about them? Two, do they have a proven track record of doing the thing that they're coaching you towards, or just a proven track record of their coaching in and of itself? And then finally, do you have the time and the commitment to do what it takes? Don't go get a coach unless you're willing to do that. So guys, this is part one. We're going to do part two in next week's episode. Part one, it's a two-part episode on coaching. How do you choose a coach? And I give you those three points, right? Do you admire, proven track record? Are you going to make the time and the commitment to do that? Okay. Now, I don't mean this necessarily to be a pitch for Capitalized marketing and consulting services, but go to capitalize.biz. You'll find us there. Find me anywhere online. You can find videos of things I've done. In fact, the YouTube channel of this podcast, I just posted a 6-minute excerpt from my talk at the John Maxwell Leadership Series Leadership event. It'll give an idea of what our coaching is like. So check that out. But more than anything, I hope you find the coach that's perfect to help you meet your goals. Just make that commitment when you do it. Friends, thank you so much. Like, share. If you enjoyed this, take a little screenshot, throw it up on your stories. We'd always appreciate subscriptions and reviews. And I will be back next week with part two. Thank you so much, gang. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.
The time it takes to buy a car buying just got easier. Pohanka365.com lets you complete as much or as little of the car buying process online. Pohanka365.com. Car buying simplified. Anytime, anywhere.